Okay, today I'm going to change the ball joints on my 2000 Cadillac Escalade. The ball joint should pretty much be very similar to any V8 SUV or V8 truck. Similar, not the same, but similar. So I'm going to walk you through the steps. I'm going to give a brief description first, then show the steps. The video really shouldn't be that long, even though this process is. The process is roughly an hour and a half to 4 hours, depending on your skill set. But this is what we're going to do. First of all, I'm going to take off the hub nut. Then I'm going to take the tire off, jack the car up, support it on some blocks. Take the brake caliper off, take the hub assembly off, take the tie rod off, the outer tie rod, take it off, detach the upper ball joint, detach the lower ball joint, and take the shock compressor out, just the bottom. Then once all that's out, I'll go ahead and press the bottom ball joint out, press the bottom ball joint back in, put everything in reverse. It seems easy, it is, but it's tedious. So let me go ahead and show you the steps. Right here are all the tools I'm going to need. I use blocks. I use wooden blocks to block the vehicle. I have a 3-ton jack. I have a ball joint presser, gloves, knee pads, different wrenches, hammer, sockets, and ratchets. So that's all I'm going to need. When I get to each particular part, I'll tell you the size. The ball joint that I'm using is from AutoZone. It's just a Duralast brand. This is what you get. You get your ball joint. It has a castle nut. You get your cotter pin and your Zerks fitting. Here's the new ball joint. I already did the passenger side, so I have my old one to compare, which is right here. Perfect fit. It fit in. It's in the vehicle. I can't feel a difference. I can't even move this. This one's all over the place. It's not making a noise, but look at how loose it is. When I hit bumps, I really feel the vibration. Put the new one in. Okay, now on to step one. I have a 36mm socket. I'm about to take the hub nut off. Before I jack the car up, because it's under, well, you know, the weight of the car. It's easier for me to turn. And I'm using my breaker bar. Okay, now that I have the tire off, which I typically slide the tire under my car, I'm using wood blocks, and I still have my jack under the car as well. So, next step is I'm going to take off the brake caliper. Then I'll slide the rotor off. I'll take off the outer tie rod. I'll take the hub assembly off. Then release the upper ball joint. Then you'll get to see the lower ball joint, and then that's that. So let me get to it. I'm gonna take the brake rotors off. I'm gonna take the brake calipers off. With mine, there's just 2 screws, one at the top, one at the bottom. I use this 3/8. So take that off, and now that I loosened the top and bottom bolt, I took a big clamp and I loosened I took the lid off of the master cylinder and I compressed the caliper, and now I'll just go ahead and take this off. And in a second, so I'm just gonna sit just gonna sit that there for right now. But you want to tie it off, bungee cord it off. You just want to make sure it doesn't fall. And then my roller slides on off. Sit that down. The roller slides on off, and now you're at your hub. You want to rotate the hub to line it up with the bolt right there, which that is a 15 millimeter. You have 1, 2, 3. You have those 3. Take those 3 off, and your entire hub just slides on off. Make a note on how your heat shield goes on. I put my breaker bar on an extension on a 15 millimeter. I'll go ahead and break the connection. Pretty on there, pretty tight. So you go ahead and you break the connection, and then you can use your ratchet to go ahead and take them on up. The good thing is all the holes and the bolts, they line up. Again, like I said, you want to make sure, remember the relationship of this heat shield so you know how to put it back on. And then your hub, a little bit of wiggling, you go ahead and pull it on off. I'll show you that in a second. Okay, I pulled it. The washer from the hub nut came out. You slide this one out. Slide it on out. Here's your hub. If you ever need to take your hub off, there's just one little star nut right there. Go ahead and take that off, swap it out. So I'm gonna go ahead and set this out the way, tie it down, move on to the next step, which are the ball joints. The tie rod, then the upper ball joint, lower ball joint shock. Okay, now what I'm left with, I have the steering knuckle still attached to the upper ball joint, or the upper ball joint and the upper control arm, and the lower ball joint to the lower control arm, and the tie rod in. What I'm gonna do, I'm gonna take the cotter pin out of all 3, the castle nut out of all 3. I'm going to use my crowbar to drive it in and pop the upper control ball joint out. Then I will loosen this nut up, raise it up, put a towel or some wood over it, and drive that down. And then with the lower ball joint, I'll just take a hammer and go ahead and beat it on up, because I don't care if I damage that. As soon as I do that, the steering knuckle will slide off of the axle, and I'm left with, I'll take the shock out, so that the control arm go ahead and lower, and that gives me more clearance for the ball joint press. So I'll go ahead and do that, and then I'll show you in a second. This is a 19 millimeter to get your tie rod nut off. I already took the cotter pin out. Go ahead and I already loosened it off. That's a 19 millimeter. I'll go ahead and take that off. The bottom cotter pin, I already took it out. The castle nut, I'm using a 1 1/16. So just go ahead and I already loosened that. So I'll go ahead and take that off in a second. Now, to get to your upper ball joint, I go ahead and I rotate the tire, and it gives me a little bit more access. It gives me a little bit more access to get to the cotter pin this way. So I'll go ahead and take the cotter pin out, take the castle nut out. Then, like I said, I'll use my crowbar to go ahead and separate the upper ball joint, take the shock out, separate the lower ball joint, then the fun begins. The best tool to use to separate your upper ball joint from the steering knuckle, it is the ball joint separator, a little fork type tool that you just slide in and it pops it up. I don't have one, I don't feel like going to rent one, so I'm just going to use my crowbar and it will do the same thing. Put my glasses on and a few whacks and you'll see it pop up. More than a few whacks, but it did pop up. With the tie rod in, I take the nut off, I flip it over, I put it on backwards. I put a little towel over it. And pop that on out. That nut back on. So now the upper ball joint is out, tie rod is out. Now again, I'm just going to take the persuader here and, well, I have the nut loosened all the way and I'm going to hit it until it separates. Then I'll go ahead and take it off, slide the axle out, take the shock, the bottom shock off, and then go ahead and press the ball joint out. Okay, after about I don't know, a minute of hitting, I was able to release it. There's the castle nut, lift it, and here is the steering knuckle off. So this out the way. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to get everything out of my way. I'm going to take off the shock, the bottom shock, just so that the entire, well, the lower control arm could drop more. Just gives me a little bit more clearance, and go from there. So right now all I'm gonna do is just take this out. And the shock is just a 19 millimeter. Just take this bolt out, lower control arm will drop. It gives me more clearance. I'm gonna take this Zerks fitting off. I believe it's an 8 millimeter. Take that off so I could press the ball joint out, and I'll show you that. Okay, now the fun starts. So right here, you see we have the lower ball joint. It's exposed. See just how much play this thing has. I can't even move the new one. So this is an 8 millimeter Zerks. I took that off. Now you go ahead and press this out. For whatever the reason, I could not press mine out. I don't know if the presser kept slipping off, if I was doing it wrong. I don't know what it was. I just know that I would put it on, it's like this, it would be at an angle, it kept slipping off. So what I did, I took this hammer and I hit this thing for about a minute, and that's why I need so much room. That was why I took the shock off, so I could have more room of hitting. So I'm going to actually film that, see just how long it takes. Might speed it up if it takes too long, but I'm gonna hit this out, and then I will press it back in because that's the only way you can get it in, and that was not an issue. So I'm gonna put my safety goggles on, my hearing protection, and start banging away. Got my hearing protection, got my safety goggles, got my gloves. Now I'm about to bang away. It's halfway out right now. Ah! Okay, so that was probably a minute. I don't know, it was a long time for me. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna clean this up, wipe with a towel, put some brake cleaner in there, clean it up, get the new one, press it on. By the way, this has taken me an hour and a half to get to this point. It probably would have took me a good 20 minutes less if I wasn't filming. You know, I have to brake, set the camera up, but it took me an hour and a half nevertheless. I'm probably looking at least an hour till I finish. So, you know, that's 2.5 to 3 hours. So, yeah, I'm actually gonna take a break for a second, give you something to drink, get the new one, show you how you press it on, then you just do everything. Right here, I have the ball joint press kit. Really don't know all the pieces' names, but I know how they work. Here's my old ball joint. Again, you can see just how much that moves. New ball joint. I can't move this at all. So obviously, this was bad, but this has been on the car for 16 years. What do you expect? It did its job. So what you want to do, you want to find one of these little couplings that goes on. Obviously this one's too big because it just falls through. So you want to find the right one that goes on, squeeze it around over the boot, squeeze it over the boot. Then you take the piece that can slide where the bolt part slides through the hole. Then on your clamp, one side is threaded, the other side isn't. So you take the non-threaded side and you take your big bolt and it goes ahead and turns on through. So you simply line up your ball joint where you want to put it in. Ideally, you want to put the other coupling on top, but my clamp isn't big enough. So what I have to do is I just have to take this top piece, sit it here, screw that down onto it. As I tighten down, it will pull the ball joint up. As the ball joint gets into the lower control arm, then it'll go ahead and give me more room so I can add this coupling. So I'm about to obviously put the new one in and go ahead and press it on in. Now there's a little indent right here that shows you where you want to line up your Zerk fitting. So, you know, because once you get this up in here, there's no moving it. So I'm going to put that, it'll be at an angle like that. So I'll go ahead and press that on in, and then we'll be done. Now, let's see, what was this? I believe this is this is a 22 millimeter. This is a 22 millimeter. So if you have an impact, this is the time to get it out. If not, you can use, you know, a breaker bar, and you might even need to add something onto the breaker bar, which you're going to see me doing. I'm using my jack handle. It makes this 2-foot breaker bar 5 feet, and it makes it very easy. So I'll go ahead and set that up, and okay. Again, new ball joint. Take the coupling, put it on. This fits just perfect. Just perfect. Hope I got this lined up, but that fits on here just perfect. Then I take this little cap and slide the bolt part through. Get the ball joint lined up where I want it to come out. Put this little center cap, put this in the press. Put this center cap on. And I'll go ahead and tighten it on down. Put go ahead and tighten. So I'll go ahead and tighten it on up, and every once in a while I'll come back and show you a little progress. Okay, here's an update. I'm halfway in. I had to switch out to the breaker bar attached to my jack handle, which I said gives me about 4 to 5 feet, and it's still a little hard. So I'm going to keep going. Like I said, I'm halfway through. I'll go ahead and finish it up. Next time I video the ball joint. Okay, now as you can see, the lower ball joint has been pressed in. That's where the Zerk's fitting is going to go, perfectly lined up with this little indent coming in at this angle. So I'm going to put the Zerk's fitting back on. Then I'm going to put the steering knuckle on the axle, the steering knuckle on the lower and upper ball joint, put the the tie-in rod on, put my shock, hook the shock back up, put the hub back on, put the rotor on, put the caliper on, put the tire on, tighten down the hub nut, and then I'm good. Then I'm done. So I hope that I didn't miss too many steps. I hope I didn't go too fast. With that being said, the whole process took me a little bit over 3 hours. Some of that was I was going slow, some of that was I was filming, but plan accordingly, because it's going to take a while. You're going to get tired, you're going to get hungry. Have some food outside and something to drink. Okay, I'm done. I didn't show me putting everything back on. I didn't want to make the video longer than it had to be. But what I did do, I tightened everything to specs according to my vehicle. So you might want to check whatever vehicle you're doing, the specs that you need to torque it to. I did use cotter pins brand new cotter pins. I cleaned all the bolts off, and again, I tightened them to specs. Everything's back on. I went and changed, and I took the car for a ride. Very smooth. If you have any clunking noise, that your ball joints are huge, so I would go ahead and change them. So now that I'm done with everything and I'm clean, I'm about to clean my tools, which is something that I like to do because I don't like dirty tools. So as usual, I appreciate you watching. If you have any questions, feel free to hit me up. I do my best to answer them. You guys have a good one.